I'm Pattu from freefincal. In today's video, let's talk about investing in the Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 index funds, and particularly let's answer the question, should I rebalance between Nifty and the Nifty Next 50? We have seen many times that the Nifty Next 50 is significantly more volatile than the Nifty. So a natural question is, at the portfolio level, yes, we will be rebalancing between fixed income and equity, but within the asset class level, that is particularly within equity, do I need to do an additional rebalance between Nifty and the Nifty Next 50? If you are new to the channel, if you are new to the website freefincal.com, then you may be wondering why I keep talking about Nifty and Nifty Next 50. If you go to the article which is linked in the description and the pinned comment, you can see how you can actually combine. There are links to how you can combine Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 together to form mixtures of large cap, mid cap kind of portfolios. The Nifty Next 50 is not a large cap index, it's a mid cap index in terms of risk. I also have articles on which is the lowest index fund, which is the index fund of the lowest tracking error for both Nifty and the Nifty Next 50. So, generally speaking, even before we do the back test or show you the back test results, there are some things which we can talk right off the cuff. One is that these two are both equity indices and they tend to go together. When the Nifty moves up, Nifty Next 50 will also move up, but probably to a larger extent, typically, and so on. But there's one distinct difference from February 2008. I keep saying this. It's been a very frustrating inhomogeneity. The Nifty has been moving up because just a few stocks, driven by a few stocks, it's been moving up, while the Nifty Next 50 has been moving down. So under those circumstances, maybe a rebalance between these two asset class, maybe intuitively, it may make sense. Let's see. It depends on what the back tests tell you, but we'll see. We'll have to, there are many considerations before that. We are only going to look at a back test with 100% equity portfolio. There's not much of data. If I take a 10-year SIP of Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 together, there are only like 128 7-year data points and 92 10-year data points. That's a very, very poor number, but that's what we have. Now, please recognize that I'm looking at a 100% equity portfolio. You must rebalance between equity and debt. That's a separate problem, that's a separate consideration, and that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about rebalancing within Nifty, between Nifty and Nifty Next 50, in addition to rebalancing between equity and debt. So so let's talk about these results. So the first thing I want to show you is maybe I think I should show you these graphs separately. I think there's or I probably can see it, I think. So now what you see here is a 50-50 allocation, and what you see in the graph is there are 4 graphs and each of them 4 lines, and each of them show you the allocation, the variation in the allocation of the Nifty Next 50. Now the top 2 show you the maximum allocation and the bottom 2 show you the minimum allocation. That is, if I do one test run over let's say a 7-year period, over 7 into 12 months, the Nifty Next 50 allocation will keep fluctuating up and down. The maximum fluctuation is plotted for each run, the minimum fluctuation is plotted in each run below. So now you can see here in the dotted lines correspond to maximum, the top set of dotted lines correspond to the maximum allocation when you rebalance, and the bottom set of dotted lines, the big dotted lines, correspond to the gray colored dotted lines, correspond to the minimum Nifty Next 50 allocation when you rebalance on both cases. So when you rebalance, these fluctuations that you see, that's the maximum allocation fluctuating on the top and the minimum allocation fluctuating on the bottom. The blue line, which is kind of more smoother, is the maximum allocation when you don't rebalance, and the orange line at the bottom, which is more smoother, is the minimum allocation when you don't rebalance. Now immediately you can recognize that the maximum and the minimum, so remember we are talking about a 50%, that's the target allocation. So above the target allocation, the maximum deviation is like 5%, 6% and so on. Below it's again 5%, 6% and so on, which is not too much, and there's not much of a difference between the maximum allocation and minimum allocation whether you rebalance or don't rebalance. So automatically that will tell you the results of your portfolio will not change too much, because whether you rebalance or don't rebalance, the allocation is not changing too much. So the risk will be similar, the reward will be similar, everything will be similar. So immediately we have the answer. We will look at some results, but we automatically already have the answer that there will not be a great difference if whether you worry about rebalancing between Nifty and Nifty Next 50, because the asset allocations are not varying too much. Of course, because of the recent inhomogeneity, you can see that rebalancing makes a difference. If you don't rebalance, Nifty Next 50 allocation moves up to about 58-57%. If you rebalance, it is about 53%, close to 53%, because it's fluctuating all the time. So in that sense, rebalancing will help you stick to the target allocation, but in terms of risk and reward, it will not change too much. Similar data is plotted for 10-year periods as well, and again, more or less the difference is the same. So again, what you're going to expect should not be surprising. The next thing I'm going to show you is the maximum drawdown. That is how much the portfolio fell over those 92 back tests for 10 years, and how much it fell from a peak. So you can see here for certain back tests, the maximum fall was 60%, 50%, and this is a full portfolio, equity portfolio I'm saying. Remember, there's only the equity part of the portfolio. And for certain, it's not been much of a drawdown at all, but the blue line and the orange lines are both merged together. So whether you rebalance or don't rebalance, the maximum drawdown is pretty much the same. So in terms of the risk, it's the same. Again, standard deviation also, it's pretty much the same. And finally, in terms of the return, the XIRR also, it's pretty much the same. So it's not a big difference for a 50-50 portfolio. Remember that if you want only 10% Nifty in your Nifty Next 50 in allocation, earlier I used to think that people who want only 10% Nifty or 10% Nifty Next 50 or 20% Nifty Next 50, I had suggested maybe you can consider Axis 100, although it's a bit more expensive. But since rebalancing does not make a difference, even if you want only 10%, 20% allocation to Nifty Next 50, you can have both index funds in your portfolio. So it's not going to make a much of a difference. So when you rebalance, you get new Gyan. When you rebalance. When you back test, you get new Gyan. You think something, but when you back test, you get something else. That's what I meant. Now then I did another test for a 70% Nifty and a 30% Nifty Next 50, and the results are not very different. Again, you can see the fluctuations. This is the 30% is the target, and the maximum fluctuations is above that, and the minimum fluctuations is below that. Again, there's not much of a difference between the rebalanced portfolio and the unrebalanced portfolio. So you don't need to worry about rebalancing between Nifty and the Nifty Next 50. All you need to do is to do a systematic, the minimum that you need to do is a systematic annual once in a year rebalance between equity and debt. Of course, when you're going to book some profit from equity and shift it to debt, you can do it in the proportion of your Nifty Next 50 and Nifty holding. That is, suppose if you want to book 1,000 rupees, if you want to remove 1,000 rupees from your equity portfolio and shift it to debt, and you have 70% Nifty and 30% Nifty Next 50, you can pull 700 rupees from Nifty and 300 rupees from Nifty Next 50. And on the reverse direction also can be in the same proportion. There's no need for you to do any additional rebalancing or anything like that. So the additional consideration which I will talk about after a couple of days is what about tactical rebalancing between Nifty and the Nifty Next 50 based on double moving averages. Remember, I've been talking about double moving averages, and I have a tool for double moving averages, and I had mentioned that the tool is available for rupees 500. That's a 50% discount. From July 16th onwards, the tool will go to 1,000 rupees, but until 15th of July, it's available at 50% discount, and you can go to the website or click the links below to get it. I have shown that it works for equity, debt, gilts, etc. Will it work for Nifty Next 50 as well? This is a result that I'll be publishing in a couple of days. What do you think it's going to be? Bye-bye.